The unearthed cry. The red suns of Talvra 9 were sinking low, their twin lights bleeding through the dust of a dying evening. A lone human named Ethan Cole dragged his shovel across the dry alien soil, his breath fogging against the chill wind. He had been working the mining colony for 3 months, paid almost nothing, but he needed every credit to keep the generator on back home. The aliens of Talvra didn't talk to him much. They saw him as fragile, too emotional, too human. That evening, the scanner on his wrist crackled. A faint life signal blinked across the screen. Too weak, too shallow to be real. Ethan frowned, thinking it was a glitch, until the signal pulsed again. Steady, something alive lay buried under the crimson dust. He crouched, swept away the surface with his glove, and froze. The ground hummed, a low, painful sound like someone trying to cry through stone. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away, but curiosity and fear tangled together inside his chest. He started to dig. The aliens would call him reckless if they saw him. The colony's laws were strict. Never disturb ancient soil. Never dig outside assigned grids, but the cry came again, softer this time. Like a whisper begging to be heard, Ethan's shovel struck something hard. He dropped to his knees and brushed the dirt away. There, beneath a sheet of translucent sand glass, a face appeared, pale, delicate, marked with faint silver veins that glowed weakly in the dark. A girl, no older than 16, her body wrapped in tattered ceremonial cloth. Her lips parted ever so slightly as if trying to breathe. Ethan's hands trembled. "What the hell?" he muttered, voice cracking as the girl's eyelids fluttered. The scanner went wild. Flashing lifeform detected. Stasis breach imminent, then silence. The air thickened as if the planet itself were holding its breath. A sharp hiss echoed from the dunes behind him, and when he turned, 3 tall figures stood against the red horizon. They were Viren siblings, their armor sleek and black, eyes glowing blue like burning glass. Each one held a plasma blade that hummed with restrained fury. One of them, the tallest with crest markings across his skull, stepped forward. "Step away from the grave, human," he said coldly. His voice vibrating through the dust, Ethan's heart pounded, his fingers still brushing the girl's hair. "She's alive," he whispered. "You buried her alive." The alien's jaw tightened. "She is our sister," the figure growled, "and her fate was chosen by our council." Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You left a child to die?" he said, his voice rising. The aliens advanced a step, their shadows stretching long and sharp. "She carries a curse," the second sibling hissed. "A disease born from human contact," Ethan's stomach twisted. They thought she was infected, and because of humans. He looked down at the girl, her chest faintly rising, her lips moving soundlessly. Something deep within him, that stubborn human defiance, took over. He stood, placing himself between her and the armed siblings. "If she dies," he said slowly, "you'll have to go through me." The Virens paused, confused at first and then angry. Their armor began to hum, blades heating into a blinding blue. Ethan knew he stood no chance. Yet the ground trembled beneath their feet. A new vibration. Different, ancient. The scanner on his wrist screamed. Energy surge detected. The soil split open beside him, golden light flooding the air. The girl's eyes snapped open, not blue, not green, but pure white. And a shockwave of sound rippled through the valley. The siblings screamed as their armor cracked, their blades flickering out. Ethan was thrown backward, landing hard in the sand. He blinked up at the blinding light and saw the girl floating, hair rising like starlight, her voice whispering in a language older than time. "They buried me for fear," she said softly. "But you dug me for hope." Then everything went still. The Viren siblings lay unconscious, the air heavy with ion smoke and silence. Ethan crawled closer, his chest aching, his mind spinning. Who was she? Why had they feared her so much? She turned her eyes toward him in the glow fading, and whispered his name. No one had told her that. The suns of Talvra 9 dipped below the horizon as the human and the alien girl stared at each other, the dust around them settling like ashes of a forgotten war. And somewhere, far above the clouds, the Galactic Council's sensors blinked online, detecting a forbidden energy awakening beneath the soil. The Council would not stay silent for long. The awakening echo. The night on Talvra 9 was silent after the storm of light. Ash and golden dust floated through the air, glowing faintly as they drifted to the cracked ground. Ethan sat up slowly, every muscle aching, his mind trying to understand what he had just seen. The alien girl lay beside him, breathing softly now, her silver veins dim but still pulsing with a strange rhythm. He stared at her face, fragile yet glowing with quiet strength. The Varen siblings were scattered across the dunes, unconscious but alive. Ethan didn't know if he had saved her or doomed them all. His scanner blinked again, this time flashing alert. Unauthorized energy signature detected by Galactic network. He frowned. Great, he muttered under his breath. Now they're coming too. The girl's eyes fluttered open, those pale white orbs reflecting the starlight. She looked around, her lips trembling as if remembering something terrible. You should have left me, she whispered, her voice soft but echoing strangely. Ethan leaned closer, confused and worried. They were killing you, he said quietly. I couldn't just walk away. Her eyes filled with something that looked like sorrow, or maybe fear. They were saving themselves, she said, turning her gaze toward the twin moons rising above. I am not supposed to exist anymore, Ethan blinked, feeling a cold shiver run through him. What do you mean not supposed to exist? He asked, but she didn't answer. The air around them trembled far above. Bright streaks of light cut through the dark. Dropships? Descending fast, he grabbed her arm gently. We have to move, he said urgently. Those are council patrols. They'll kill us both. She didn't resist, but her steps were weak, almost floating, like she wasn't fully connected to gravity anymore. They ran, or tried to, across the broken terrain. Behind them, the Viren siblings began to stir, their voices distant, calling out in their language. Ethan's boots sank into the shifting sand, but he pulled her forward, desperate to find cover before the patrols landed. Every few seconds, the scanner on his wrist buzzed louder, detecting stronger energy pulses from the girl herself. They found an old mining tunnel carved deep into the rock. Ethan helped her inside, leaning her against the cold wall. Her skin glowed faintly blue now, veins lighting up like rivers under her skin. What's happening to you? He asked, his voice shaking. She looked up slowly, eyes glowing faintly again. The curse, she whispered. It's not a disease, it's a signal. A signal? Ethan repeated, his chest tightening. She nodded weakly. My body is connected to the world's core. When I awaken, it calls to them. Before he could ask who them meant, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling as the sound of engines thundered above the tunnel. Outside, bright blue beams swept the desert like searchlights, and mechanical drones began scanning for life forms. Ethan's heart pounded. He turned to her. Why would the council fear a signal? Her voice was faint now, almost breaking. Because the last time it was heard, she said, it ended their empire. Ethan froze. What are you? He asked quietly. She looked up, her expression calm but sad. I was buried because I am the last daughter of the core, she whispered. My kind were meant to sleep forever. A crack of thunder rolled through the tunnel, shaking the ground. Outside, one of the patrol ships fired a pulse cannon into the sand, creating a blinding explosion. The tunnel walls shuddered, rocks tumbling down. Ethan shielded the girl with his body as dust and debris fell around them. The scanner screamed again, showing readings off the chart. The girl's glow brightened until the entire tunnel shimmered with light. Her voice echoed in Ethan's mind without moving her lips. They will not stop, she said, but you can still run. Human, Ethan gritted his teeth. I'm not leaving you, he said. His voice steady now. She blinked, surprised, a small tear forming at the corner of her glowing eye. No one has ever said that to me, she whispered. He took her hand. Then maybe it's time someone did, outside. The patrols grew closer, mechanical voices shouting coordinates. Ethan checked his sidearm. One low-energy pistol, barely enough to stun a drone, but he wasn't thinking about odds anymore. He looked at the girl beside him, and something in her calm gaze gave him strength. Suddenly, a deep, ancient sound echoed from the planet itself, a resonance that vibrated through his bones. The rocks around them began to float, the dust lifting into spirals of light. Ethan stepped back in awe as the tunnel walls opened like a living thing, revealing a glowing passage beneath. The girl stood, her voice soft but certain. The planet remembers me, she said. And now, it remembers you too. Ethan swallowed hard, staring down into the blinding light that stretched deep below. Somewhere above, the patrol ships shouted warnings. But it was too late. The ground split wide open. swallowing both human and alien girl into the heart of Talvra 9. The core's memory, Ethan's body felt weightless as he fell through the golden light. It wasn't like falling through air. It was like sinking through time itself. Shapes moved around him, fragments of memories that didn't belong to him. Alien cities, ancient stars, faces that glowed like constellations. The girl floated beside him, calm, her hair flowing like strands of silver flame. They landed softly on a surface that looked like glass but pulsed beneath their feet like a heartbeat. Ethan gasped, staring around at an endless chamber of light, filled with floating crystals and rivers of molten gold. "This is inside the planet?" he whispered, still catching his breath. The girl nodded slowly. "This is the core of Talvra 9, the place where all memory sleeps." She stepped forward, her bare feet touching the glowing floor, and the light responded, rising like waves. Ethan followed, unable to look away. He had never seen anything so beautiful, or so alive. "Why did the council bury you?" he asked quietly, his voice echoing in the chamber. The girl stopped and turned toward him, her eyes glowing faintly again. "They called me cursed," she said, "but I was only the keeper of what they feared to remember." Ethan frowned. Feared to remember? She touched one of the glowing crystals, and it flared to life, showing a vision of ships, human ships, sailing through the void of space. He stepped closer, his breath catching. The vision showed humans standing beside aliens, building cities on distant worlds, sharing fire and water, but then the light darkened. The images shifted. War, betrayal, explosions tearing through the stars. He saw humans burning cities, alien fleets retaliating, the sky filled with screams of both sides. "When the first alliance fell," the girl said softly, "they erased humanity from the records. They feared your kind," she whispered, "because you were the only ones who could wake the core again." Ethan stared at her, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You mean humans were part of this world?" She nodded. "Not part of creators. Talvra was one of the first worlds seeded by human hands." Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. "That's impossible. Humans only reached deep space 2 centuries ago." Her gaze was steady. "Ancient, your people forgot, but the core remembers." Ethan felt dizzy, the weight of her words pressing against his mind. He turned and looked around, every crystal glowing brighter now, each one showing glimpses of forgotten ages. The core was waking, and the girl, whatever she was, Juan, was the key. Suddenly the ground shuddered, the light flickering like fire under wind. From the far edge of the chamber, dark shapes emerged, metallic sentinels, tall and thin with glowing red eyes. "The Guardians," she whispered, her voice tight. "They were left to stop anyone from touching the core again." Ethan grabbed her hand instinctively. "What do we do?" She looked at him, her expression calm but fierce. "Run," she said, and the chamber responded to her voice, the glowing paths shifting beneath their feet, opening a passage of light. They sprinted through it as the sentinels moved, their metal limbs cutting through the air with terrifying speed. Ethan fired his pistol, the energy bolts bouncing harmlessly off their armor. One of the sentinels struck the ground behind them, sending shockwaves through the floor. Ethan stumbled, nearly falling. But the girl turned and raised her hand. The air rippled, and one of the sentinels shattered like glass, fragments dissolving into light. She gasped, clutching her chest, her power clearly draining her. They reached a bridge of crystal that stretched over a glowing abyss. Below, golden rivers pulsed like veins inside a living creature. The sentinels closed in, mechanical voices chanting in an unknown language. Ethan looked down at the glowing chasm, then at her. "There's nowhere left to go," he said. Breathing hard, she turned toward him, her eyes bright with defiance. "Yes, there is," she whispered, stepping closer. She placed her glowing hand on his chest, right over his heart. "You were not chosen by mistake. Human." Ethan's body froze, a surge of warmth rushing through him. The veins under his skin began to glow faintly, the same silver light as hers. "What's happening?" he shouted. Her voice was soft but steady. "You carry their blood, Ethan. You are one of the lost creators." Before he could respond, the bridge cracked under their feet. The core's energy flared, swallowing them both in a storm of light and sound. The last thing he saw before everything went white was her face, calm, almost peaceful, as she whispered, "Now the core remembers you too, the Council's fear across the stars, deep within the silver towers of the Galactic Council." Alarms rang like thunder across the void. The sky above the council citadel burned with streams of data. Holographic warnings flickering across the walls. For the first time in thousands of years, a forbidden signature had been detected. Human core resonance. The elders of the council gathered in the Hall of Silence. Their robes shimmering with the light of galaxies. Elder Val, the oldest among them, slammed his staff into the floor. "This cannot be true," he said, his voice trembling with disbelief. "The humans are gone. Extinct. Erased by our own decree." But the AI sentinels floating above the chamber confirmed it again. Core energy detected on Talvra 9, classified as human origin frequency. Whispers spread like cold fire. The council members turned toward the holographic map showing the planet glowing red. "If the core awakens," one of them said quietly, "our reign ends." Another voice hissed from the shadows. "Then bury the world again, this time deeper." But Elder Val shook his head slowly. "You cannot bury what remembers," he said, eyes glowing faintly with fear. "Send the purification fleet, all of it, before the humans remember who they were." The chamber fell into silence. Then the order was given across the galaxy. Warships stirred, millions of them, like metallic beasts waking from a long sleep. Far below, inside the heart of Talvra 9, Ethan gasped as the world slowly returned to shape. He and the girl were lying on a platform of smooth crystal, surrounded by endless floating light. His chest still glowed faintly where she had touched him. "What did you do to me?" he asked, his voice shaky but calm. The girl looked at him with tired eyes, her silver glow dimmer now. "I didn't change you," she said softly. "I only revealed what was always there." Ethan looked down at his hands, seeing faint lines of silver light tracing his veins. He felt stronger, faster, and for the first time, connected to something vast, something alive. He looked up at the chamber around them. "What is this place really?" "The memory of creation," she said. "My kind called it the core, but your ancestors called it the heart forge." Ethan frowned. "Heart forge?" She nodded. "A place where life was shaped, where humans and the old races built the first living worlds." Her voice trembled. "But when war began, the council decided to seal it. They buried me with it, so no one could use it again." Ethan clenched his fists, anger rising. "So they buried a child to hide their crime." She looked down, her voice a whisper. "I was the conduit. I was born to keep the heart forge asleep." Ethan sighed deeply. "Then why wake now?" Her eyes lifted toward the ceiling, where distant echoes of ships rumbling through the sky could already be heard. "Because you touched the soil," she said softly. "And the planet remembered your blood." The ground shook suddenly. The ceiling of crystal flickered, showing flashes of blue fire raining from the sky, plasma bombardments from orbit. "They found us," Ethan said, pulling her close as the tremors grew stronger. Her eyes widened in fear. "The purification fleet. They'll burn the core." She stepped toward the platform's center, pressing her hand against a glowing sigil. The chamber responded, energy spiraling upward, creating a dome of light. Ethan shielded his eyes as holographic runes appeared around them. "What are you doing?" he shouted over the roar. Her voice was calm, even as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Saving what I can before they destroy it again." The core pulsed once and then twice, and suddenly hundreds of crystal shards rose into the air. Each one glowing with ancient symbols. They circled her, forming a pattern that looked like wings of light. Ethan felt the energy rush through him again, binding them together. The voice of the core echoed in both their minds, old and thunderous. Human signature restored. Memory access granted. Ethan staggered, visions flooding his mind. Human engineers shaping stars, building ships of living steel, creating worlds that sang. Then the destruction, the betrayal, the silence that followed. He saw how humanity's name was erased, how fear turned history into myth. When he opened his eyes, he was crying. "We were gods once," he whispered, "and they made us ghosts." The girl touched his face gently. "But ghosts can rise again," she said softly, "if they still remember who they are." Before Ethan could answer, the dome cracked, a blast from above tearing through the ceiling. Blue fire rained down, burning everything it touched. A voice echoed through the core, mechanical, cold. "Target confirmed. Terminate resonance carriers." Ethan grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her toward the collapsing bridge. She stumbled, weak from using too much energy. "We can't outrun them," she whispered. But we can go deeper. The floor split open beneath them, revealing another tunnel filled with pure white light. Ethan didn't think twice. He held her close and jumped. The last thing he saw before they fell was the fleet descending, millions of ships surrounding the planet like vultures, and the Council's voice echoing through every channel in the galaxy. Purge Talvra 9 and end the human echo forever. The human echo rises. They fell through white light that twisted like ribbons of energy. Ethan's body felt both heavy and weightless at once, as if gravity itself couldn't decide whether to let him go. The alien girl clung to him, her silver eyes dim but calm when they finally landed. It wasn't on stone or metal, it was on something that pulsed, alive beneath their feet. The air shimmered with faint golden dust. Before them stretched a massive chamber, silent, endless, filled with structures that looked like sleeping giants. Dozens of enormous shapes lay half-buried in crystal light. Wings folded, hulls marked with ancient human symbols. Ethan took a step forward, his voice trembling. What is this place? The girl looked around, her face lit by awe and sorrow. This, she whispered, is the Forge Heart, the resting place of humanity's warships. He stared in disbelief, running his hand along the metallic surface of one colossal vessel. Its body was scarred by time, but under the dust, he could see markings: HSS Soul's Wrath, HSS Endeavor, names that hadn't been spoken for millennia. These ships, she said softly, were built when humans still remembered who they were. Ethan felt something strange in his chest, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. His hand glowed faintly, the same light as the core. The ship responded, metal humming beneath his fingers, lights flickering to life. The alien girl's eyes widened. "You're waking it," she whispered. "I don't even know how," he said, but his body moved on its own, his heart syncing with the slow rhythm of the ship's pulse. The ground trembled as distant explosions echoed from above. The Council's bombardment was tearing through the planet's surface, sending cracks deep into the core. She looked upward, fear flashing across her face. "They will reach this place soon," she said, "and when they do, they'll destroy everything left of your kind." Ethan clenched his fists, feeling the ship's vibration match his heartbeat. "No," he said quietly, "not this time." He stepped onto a raised platform, and as his boots touched it, blue light surged up around him, forming ancient holographic patterns. The ship's voice filled the air, deep, human, and powerful. "Biometric pattern recognized. Human line confirmed. Command interface reactivated." Ethan's breath caught. The girl stared in shock. "It still knows you." The holographic symbols swirled, forming a projection of an old man in armor, not alive but memory preserved. "Who are you?" Ethan asked. The hologram looked at him with calm eyes. "I am Admiral Rowan of the First Human Fleet," it said. "You are standing in the cradle of our final hope." Ethan swallowed hard, his voice shaking. "The galaxy thinks humans are extinct." The hologram's eyes dimmed. "They wanted it that way," it said. "After the betrayal, after the silence, we hid the Heartforge beneath the worlds we built, waiting for one of our blood to return." Ethan felt his heart pounding faster. "And now I have," he whispered. The hologram nodded slowly. "Then you must choose. Awaken the fleet and reignite the war that once burned the stars, or seal it forever and let history remain silent." The girl stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched Ethan's arm. "If you wake them," she said softly, "the Council will come with everything they have." He turned to her, eyes steady. "They're already coming," he said, "and they've been killing what they fear for too long." The hologram's voice deepened. "Awakening requires a bond, a bridge between the human and the core, between steel and soul." Ethan looked at the girl, her silver veins glowing faintly. "You mean her," he said. The hologram nodded. "She is the key." The ground shook violently, debris falling from above as the bombardment intensified. The girl looked up, pain flickering across her face. "If I merge with the Forge, I'll cease to exist as I am," she whispered. Ethan grabbed her hand, his voice raw. "There has to be another way." She smiled faintly, tears catching the light. "There never is. Not for the ones who remember." He held her hand tighter, his voice trembling. "You said ghosts can rise again. Then let's rise together." The ship's lights flared as they stepped into the activation ring. Energy surged, wind whipping through the chamber like a storm made of light. The forge heart roared to life, ancient systems awakening from slumber. The girl's body began to glow brighter than ever, her voice echoing in his mind. "Don't be afraid, Ethan," she whispered. "I will always be here, in the ship in the stars," the core's voice boomed. Synchronization complete, awakening primary warship protocol. Titan-class vessel Soul's Wrath initializing. Ethan shouted as light engulfed them both. Outside, the surface of Talvra 9 split open. A blinding column of blue energy shot into space. Piercing the storm clouds, the Council's fleet halted mid-orbit. Scanners screaming warnings from beneath the dying planet. Something massive began to rise. A forgotten warship born from the heart of the world. The Soul's Wrath emerged, its hull shining like a newborn sun. The insignia of Earth burned across its side as power rippled through its systems. Every ship in orbit turned its weapons toward it. Inside the command core, Ethan stood at the helm, his eyes glowing faintly silver, and a soft voice whispered through the ship's systems. "I told you, human, ghosts can rise again." The return of Soul's Wrath. The sky above Talvra 9 burned with fire. The Galactic Council's purification fleet hung in orbit like a metal storm. Thousands of ships ready to erase a planet, but from the cracks of the dying world rose a light they had only seen in ancient nightmares. The Soul's Wrath emerged slowly, its titanic hull tearing through layers of rock and cloud as if the world itself was being reborn. Every sensor on every Council ship went wild. Unknown energy spikes, gravity distortion, mass anomaly detected. The captains whispered to each other through comms. Their voices shaking. "It can't be real," one said. That ship was a myth. Inside the bridge, Ethan stood at the command core, his hand resting on a panel that pulsed with silver light. His eyes glowed faintly, mirroring the energy of the core. The ship's AI spoke with a voice that was both human and familiar. "She's here, Ethan," it said softly, "and she's watching." He smiled through the chaos of alarms, his heart heavy yet alive. "Then let's show them what humans remember," he said. The bridge lit up as systems came online, weapons, shields, quantum drives, and something the Council had long forgotten. The ship's soul, outside massive plates shifted along the warship's surface, unfolding like wings made of light. Each panel glowed with the mark of Earth, the circle and the star, a symbol of origin and defiance. The Council flagship transmitted a message, its voice cold and formal. "Unknown vessel, and power down and surrender. You are in violation of galactic law," Ethan answered by activating the main broadcaster. His voice echoed across the void. "Calm but fierce, this is Ethan Cole of Earth, and we do not surrender." The galaxy heard those words, and every ship in orbit hesitated. The Council flagship opened fire first. Thousands of plasma bolts rained down, lighting up the sky in blinding blue. But the Soul's Wrath did not move. Its shield flared with silver light, absorbing every blast like rain against an ocean. Inside, Ethan felt the power flow through him. Guided by the presence of the girl, her voice whispered inside his mind. "Gentle and steady. The core remembers you, Ethan. Now teach them to remember too." He nodded. "Eyes hardening, target flagship," he said. And the ship responded like a living being. Massive cannons shifted into position, charging with a low hum that shook the air. Blue energy gathered into a single beam as thick as a mountain. When he spoke the word fire, the beam split the dark like a spear of the sun. The Council flagship vanished in a burst of white flame, its debris scattering across space. The remaining ships reeled back, their formations broken by fear. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy saw a human warship fight again, and no one, not even the Council, could speak. Ethan stood tall on the bridge, breathing slowly, the light around him steady and alive. He heard her voice again, soft and warm. "They'll come with more," she said. "I know," he replied, smiling. "And we'll be ready." He looked out at the stars, his reflection glimmering in the window. Half man, half light. In the distance, the Council fleet regrouped, summoning reinforcements from other systems. But far below on Talvra 9, the core continued to pulse, sending signals through space. Across forgotten worlds, other cores stirred, echoing the same frequency. Buried cities lit up, sleeping machines woke, and long-dead stations broadcasted a message no one had heard for ages. "To any human who still lives, Earth calls you home." Ethan watched as the signal spread like fire across the void. He closed his eyes and felt the girl's presence around him. You started this with a shovel, she whispered. Now you've dug up a legend. He laughed softly, his voice low but filled with wonder. No, he said. We've dug up a future. The soul's wrath rose higher, its engines burning like a sun that had forgotten to die. And for the first time in galactic history, the council did not speak. They listened, because somewhere in the dark a human voice was singing again, a song that the stars themselves remembered, the song of soul, the song of earth. The Song of Soul. The galaxy held its breath from one spiral arm to another. Every sensor, every broadcast, every species froze. The words of a single human had spread faster than light itself. We do not surrender. And now, that echo became a storm. The soul's wrath floated in the void like a newborn star. Its hull shimmered with living light, the mark of Earth glowing against the black. The Galactic Council's fleet surrounded it, millions of ships each armed with the power to burn a world. But none moved. They all waited for the next sound. The next note, the next decision of history. Inside the bridge, Ethan stood still, hands resting on the command core. He could feel her there, not beside him, but within the ship, her voice gentle and steady. Ethan, she whispered, they're afraid of the song. He closed his eyes. Then let's remind them what it means. The soul's wrath began to hum, low at first, then rising. It wasn't machinery, and it was music, deep and ancient. The resonance of the core carried through the ship, across the stars, and one by one, other worlds answered beneath forgotten moons. Long-buried ships opened their eyes. Engines of gold flared awake in the dark. Signals from distant sectors returned. Human signatures, millions of them. The galaxy watched as stars that had been silent for ages began to sing. Ethan stared at the display in awe. They're coming back, he whispered. Her voice smiled inside his mind. They never left. Only forgotten. The council's leaders screamed through the comms. Shut it down, silence the resonance before the network collapses. But it was too late. The song had already spread through every relay. Every machine, every mind that could feel. On alien worlds, soldiers lowered their weapons. Civilians stared at the sky, hearing something that felt like memory. Even the oldest among the council began to tremble. For in the song they heard a truth they had buried. The humans had built them. Ethan raised his head. This is not vengeance, he said quietly. His voice carried across every channel. This is remembrance. The ship's light grew brighter, surrounding him in a silver glow. Through him, the core spoke. Humanity was never extinct, only sleeping, and now, the dream is over. The fleets fired in panic, countless beams of energy slamming into the soul's wrath, but every shot dissolved into harmless light. The ship absorbed the energy, redirecting it into the void, and from its heart burst a wave that swept through the system. Not a weapon, but awakening. The blast reached the Council's homeworld, shattering their data vaults, releasing forbidden history. Images flooded every screen, humans and aliens side by side, building, laughing, sharing. The truth burned brighter than any weapon. The lie of extinction was dead inside the bridge. Ethan felt his body grow lighter. He realized he was fading, not dying, but becoming part of the light itself. She spoke again, her voice warm and endless. You've done it, Ethan, she said. You've made them remember. He smiled, closing his eyes. Then sing for me, he whispered. The soul's wrath answered with a final rising chord that shook the stars. The music spread beyond galaxies, beyond time. The song of Saul, the heartbeat of humanity, reborn at last. Far away, on a small blue planet forgotten by most, oceans shimmered as the signal reached home. Machines long silent on the moon blinked to life. A message appeared across the sky, written in light. Welcome back, children of Earth. And in the deep silence that followed, every race, every world, every living being knew one thing. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as memory, as light, as the song that never truly ends.